Alright guys, welcome back to Conquer and Commander. Today we're looking at a game featuring my Aurelia, the Warleader deck. For the complete deck list, go to puremtgo.com or check the video description. Hopefully I'll have a link there as well. Let's take a look at my opponents in this game. First we've got Rith the Awakener. Usually a lot of tokens. Sometimes it's just Naya good stuff. Rith is a lot of fun. We've got Lazav, Dimir Mastermind. Typically Mill. He's difficult to deal with because of his hexproof. I don't really have any protection against Mill in this deck other than just killing the person. Finally, we've got Glissa the Trader, who has recursion, artifact recursion, and lots of good stuff like that. So my opening hand has two lands. One is Ancient Tomb, the other is Plains. I don't really like it with this hand. I'd rather have something with red available to it. So I send it back, and I get a whole mess of land plus Gisela and Tithe. Now, before we keep going here, let me pause real quick. Lazav starts off with Leyline of the Void, which is interesting card in a Lazav deck. I'm not 100% sure. I believe Lazav still gets the trigger even with the Leyline. But anyways, Leyline does a good job of hosing the Glissa deck. So I end up putting the Arid Mesa out, and or actually, that's not my Arid Mesa, that's Rith's. I end up putting Mistveil Plains out first because it comes into play tapped. Everything else I can come into play untapped if I want, and if I really want to, I can Tithe before I drop a land, assuming these guys hit their land drops as well. Gisela makes this deck just freaking kicks ass, so I'm going to keep Gisela in my hand as much as possible. Everybody hits their initial land drop. Lazav gets Talisman of Dominance, Terrain Generator for Glissa. I put Sacred Foundry into play. Thawing Glaciers gets used for Glissa. Rith Enlightened Tutors for Soul Ring, and plays it on the second turn. He's got the new Sacred Foundry. I've got the old school Sacred Foundry art for my background right here. I draw Wrath of God. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to need that just yet. Lazav plays Jushi Apprentice for a little bit of card draw. Glissa plays Colony Heart Expedition. I draw Inferno Titan. I use my fetch land. I don't really have any early turn plays. Let's stop right here. Rith plays Assemble the Legion. That's a card in this deck as well. Obviously, he's going for the token route with his deck. I've got Inferno Titan in my hand, so I'm not too worried about these tokens just yet. I haven't used Tithe yet. I probably should. I don't know what was preventing me from doing so. Lazav missed a land drop, but I'm pretty sure Glissa is going to jump out ahead here soon. So Lazav draws a card, plays Hedron Crab. Colony Heart Expedition gets 2 counters, and then Thawing Glaciers. Oh, now I Tithe. That's right, I go ahead and Tithe for 2 planes. He drops another land into play, sacrifices Colony Heart Expedition, and he's got a lot of land. I end up drawing Scroll Rack, and Scroll Rack's going to help me out a little bit because I've got a lot of, these aren't necessarily dead cards, but they're not going to help me out anytime soon. Glissa on turn 4 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. And the first soldier token comes out from Assemble the Legion for Rith. And it attacks the Glissa player because of the amount of mana she has. Lazav hits Glissa with the Hedron Crab, draws a card, and does nothing much else. He is hitting his land drops now. But Glissa has enough mana to do goofy stuff now. And she plays Terastodon. She's going to get rid of Assemble the Legion, the Leyline, and I believe the Talisman. And anyways, the Lazav player has to leave. I use my scroll rack to dig, and I put Inferno Titan on top of my library because of the counters that are out here. There's Wrecking Ogre. Oh no, I put Wrath on top of my library. There's an Orum's Thunder and Balefire Dragon and Wrecking Ogre and Sunhome. So I'm not hurting with land at all. I'm just not as fast as the Glissa deck. So there's Rith coming out to play. And I'm like, great, what am I going to do against Rith? I can put the Balefire Dragon out there if I want to. But Glissa ends up kind of helping me a little bit by playing Mana Reflection. So if I want, I can Orum's Thunder during my turn, getting rid of the Mana Reflection and hitting Rith. At least that's my initial thought. Then Thran Dynamo comes out, and he taps that for Steel Hellkite. And all of a sudden, there's a lot of stuff out there now. So I dig around, and I keep Orum's Thunder in my hand, and there's Inferno Titan and Glissa again. So now I'm like, okay, I'm hoping that because Rith is bigger than Steel Hellkite, he's going to attack Glissa just because of the amount of mana he has. So I'm just going to wait and see what happens with Rith. And play a land, draw my Balefire Dragon, and go from there. Fortunately, Rith does attack Glissa, and I'm not worried even if Rith uses his ability, but I'm going to wait until the end of Rith's turn before I blow up the Mana Reflection. Because I don't want Glissa untapping with the Mana Reflection. He does not use the ability, but what he does do is Martial Coup for 6 tokens, which is awesome because that gets rid of the Steel Hellkite, that gets rid of Rith, and it just makes a bunch of little 1/1s. At the end of his turn, I use the Mana Reflection to blow up a soldier and go that way. Alright, so let's put Rith over here. Lazav's gone. Glissa's there. There's my Aurelia. He still has a ton of mana, he just doesn't have nearly as much as he had before. So let's see what Glissa does. Glissa plays Garruk, Caller of Beasts, and uses the +1 ability. But he whiffs. Doesn't hit any creatures. He does hit, however. He's got Amulet of Vigor, Gaia's Blessing, Sudden Death, which is a good card, Asceticism, another good card, Forest, and there's that amulet. So, he ends up going Reap and Sow for Golgari Rot Farm, so that he can bounce a land and then play his land drop and continue ramping because he's got a lot of land, and then uses Thawing Glaciers. He's only got 2 cards in hand though, which is good. So I use my Scroll Rack again to get Gisela, and what I want him to do is I go ahead and play Gisela, and there's the Inferno Titan. I want the soldier tokens to kill Garruk and hopefully hurt hurt the Glissa player as well. What I wasn't expecting was for Elesh Norn to come out. Fortunately, Gisela keeps Elesh Norn from really hurting me with the soldier tokens. However, he could put a really good hurting on Glissa. Instead, what he does is he attacks Garruk with 3 of the soldier tokens and Glissa with the other 2. And that drops Glissa down to 21. I'm still at 39. I don't want to crack my fetch land just yet unless I need to. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to need my Balefire Dragon. I've got Sunhome for double strike. I've got Wrecking Ogre for another double strike. We'll see what happens here. So Glissa plays Rise of the Dark Realms. This is actually the first time I've seen it played in a game. And at first I was curious because there's no creatures in my graveyard and there's no creatures in Elesh Norn's or in the Rith player's graveyard. But what he does get back is the Terastodon and the Steel Hellkite. So the Terastodon blows up my Skull Rack and one of his Soul Rings, or his only Soul Ring. I think that's it. Does he blow up anything else? I don't think so. Yep, that's it. So, because Terastodon is a May ability, don't forget that. You don't have to blow things up if you don't want to. It's rare when people don't, but this is one of those cases. He doesn't hit my land or anything like that. And then he plays Glissa. So Terastodon's still a 7/7 out there, which is difficult to deal with, by the way. And there's Feldon's Cane, another rarely played card. So I draw Slayer Stronghold, and I play Aurelia. Okay, so Aurelia is only a 1/2. Wait, pause. So what I decide to do is hit Glissa once with Gisela. He doesn't block with the Hellkite. And I go after the Rith player once with Aurelia, which is luckily 4 damage because of Gisela. I hold Gisela back on defense just in case I get attacked by something crazy that I don't want to deal with. Really, this game comes down to Gisela. So Rith plays Rhys the Redeemed, which is going to double up all his dudes right here, and then he Beast Withins the Hellkite because he doesn't have anybody to defend if the Hellkite attacks him, and it could wipe out all his tokens. Beast Within, good card. And he gets a little 1/1 beast now. They changed up the beast token art, by the way. And I was kind of hoping that he would instead just go all out with his soldiers and attack him, because again, he's only at 15 right now, the Glissa player. And the Rith player could have taken him out right now, but he didn't. So Glissa plays Geth, Lord of the Vault. There's not a whole lot in our graveyards, but there are a couple of artifacts. And first he goes for the Soul Ring in Rith's graveyard. Doesn't see anything cool there. Then he goes after my Scroll Rack. And doesn't dump anything. Oh, he does dump my Balefire Dragon into my graveyard, which could have helped him, but he doesn't have enough mana to go ahead and grab him with Geth, because Balefire is 7 mana. So now I'm going to see new cards. There's a Clifftop Retreat. So really all I need is the Wrecking Ogre and the Slayer Stronghold, and I win right here because Rith doesn't have a flying blocker, Glissa doesn't have a flying blocker. So I use the Slayer Stronghold on Gisela to make her a 5/3. Glissa only has 15 life, so if I hit her twice with Gisela, she dies. And then if I give Aurelia the Wrecking Ogre Blood Rush, which is what I do, it's going to be more than enough to kill Rith with commander damage. And that's what I do. Really, this is a win based on Gisela. So there's the Wrecking Ogre, and Aurelia ends up hitting Rith a couple times. And I win on turn 9. So that's what Aurelia can do. Really, this I can say almost every time I play Gisela, I win with this deck. And I'll show you guys one other game at least. Or it will be another game. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks.